Quite a few years ago, my dear mum gave me a gratitude diary for Christmas. And it was this stunning, daily planner with beautiful artwork. And every single month, the creator, Melanie Spears from Giving Thanks, spoke about the sun and the moon and the stars. And I didn't read any of that, but I planned my day to come the night before and I scribbled all over the thing. And it's basically the only reason that I get so many different things done every single day and stay focused. I did think, though.
You're listening to the Plant-Based Eating for Health podcast show. I'm your host, Kathleen Gage. We're here to plant seeds on compassion to animals, your health, and the environment, and topics related to business that align with all three of those areas. Enjoy the show. Well, I am so excited today. I'm talking with Kate Galli, who is the author of, or the creator, I should say, because it's more of a creation than just writing a book. It's Plant Positive. It's a beautiful, beautiful journal. And version 2 just came out, which is so exciting. We're going to talk about that. And Kate, welcome to the Plant-Based Eating for Health show.
Kathleen, thank you so much. I am so grateful and excited to be here with you.
Well, I always love talking with you because you've been fairly long-term vegan. You're plant-based. You're a nutritionist. You coach people. You write journals. You do a lot of stuff. So let's start with, when were you first introduced into being plant-based, and when did you become quote unquote vegan, if in fact you are vegan?
Oh, I am absolutely vegan. And as you say, I follow the plant-based approach to the eating aspect of my life purely for health. The veganism is absolutely for the animals, but we travel way back. You know, I was that little girl who loved animals and ate animals and would regularly declare I could never be vegetarian until I had a particular conversation with another girl when I was 16 years old. And I learned that if I was eating animals, they needed to die for those food choices. And I became vegetarian. You know, fast forward 23 years of being vegetarian, and that's when the vegan aspect came to light. I had been a personal trainer for around a decade at that point in time. So I was heavily involved in health and fitness, and I was all about the body and the aesthetics. And sounds kind of vain now, right? But I'd spent a couple of decades sculpting a body that I was pretty confident in. And as I said, I was vegetarian for the animals. And Kathleen, I saw the documentary Cowspiracy, and I learned that I'd been lied to. I learned that we've all been lied to. And if I was vegetarian purely for the animals, absolutely, I needed to be vegan for the animals. And I made that change overnight. And there was a lot of fear involved because, you know, as I said, working in fitness, it's about looking the part and, you know, being fit, strong and healthy, which I know we're going to talk about. And, you know, I thought all that work over 2 decades, maybe I would lose some of those results when I transitioned from vegetarian to vegan. Thankfully, I was absolutely wrong. I could not have been more wrong. The benefits there's only been positive benefits so far as this lifestyle.
You know, I love it because actually in my 30s, I was a bodybuilder. I was going to compete. And the trainer that I had, he was I think he took second place in Mr. America, very steroided out. I don't know if that's a word, but he used the juice. And as he was training me, I was losing a lot of weight and on purpose. I went from about 165 pounds down to 142. And then he said, now we're going to start building it up. And I'm like, okay, we'll change the eating. And because I had changed it to lose the weight. And he goes, okay, out in my car, I have some needles out there, basically is what he said. And I'm like, I don't really want to do that. He goes, well, you have to, or you won't win any competitions. And I'm like, I can't do that. And I was brand new to sobriety at that point. It was about 38 years ago, and I had been 2 years sober. And I think that was my saving grace because I considered it a drug, and which it is a drug. And it was sobriety first. And so that was my saving grace. But It's so interesting because I was just thinking about this today. I went on a walk with my dogs, and I've got a pit bull shepherd and a terrier mix, and trying to walk the two of them at the same time is quite a challenge. But as I was walking, and when I got home and I was showering and I was looking at my 70-year-old body compared to what I had when I was 30, there's a difference. And yet I do know that I don't have to have the quote unquote traditional or average 70-year-old body. It's based on how I eat, and it's based on the exercise. So I would love to really explore, for older women especially, how do you address the whole issue when a lot of times women will say, oh, it's because I'm getting older that I have the saggy skin, or it's because I'm getting older that I just don't have the energy. Let's address that elephant in the room, if you will.
Absolutely. These are limiting beliefs we have that society has led us to believe, and, we've taken on board, and they are absolutely not to our benefit. And I can remember when I first became a personal trainer, I was in my late 20s, and a lot of the clients that I trained were, a couple of decades older than me when I started, and I was in good shape. And they'd say, just wait until you hit your 30s. And then I'd hit my 30s and I was still in good shape. Just wait until you hit your 40s. Hit my 40s still. That's what society has led us to believe, and we have taken that on board. And absolutely, it does not need to be the case at all. There are a couple of components, I guess, that get a little bit tougher as we age, but a lot of that is because our lifestyle changes. We become less active without even realizing it. Maybe we haven't been lifting heavy weights in the gym, and absolutely all of us need to lift some heavy weights. We don't need to go to the gym. We could do it at home if we'd
Mhm.
like to. But muscle is metabolism, and to maintain muscle, we need to be lifting some sort of weights. And so these are the conversations I have with my clients, and bit by bit, trying to eat away at those limiting beliefs that make it tough for them to take the actions they need to take to get the results. Because if you don't have hope in your ability to change your body, you're not going to be consistent with those actions that sometimes are less than convenient. And at the beginning, before you're good at it, perhaps they're not super fun. They can become absolutely super fun. So this is what I work with my clients, and what I would, the advice I would give to our listeners who may be hesitant about their ability to rock around in a fit, strong, healthy body they love at any age. Absolutely, you can do it. And also, a component of it is the love and supportive relationship that you have towards your body. It is not just about fitting into the tiniest size. It is about the fact that you and your body are a team. You're in it together. That's the way I think of my
Right.
body. We've got this together. We're in this game of life together with both of our best interests at heart.
I love that you said that because in my 30s, in my 40s, and around 50 when I started menopause, I think I was probably 45 when I started menopause. And, I think as I age, I start looking back at different periods in my life, and when I bought into the quote unquote stereotype, when I decided, no, that's not who I am. And I know that when I went vegan about 6 years ago, so much changed. And like you, I did it for health initially. I didn't even connect the dots that here I am rescuing animals on the one hand. And over the years, we have rescued dozens upon dozens of animals. Right now, we have 3 horses, 2 chickens, a rooster. We had a cat until a few weeks ago, and he had to go over the Rainbow Bridge. We have 2 dogs, and they're rescues. And I didn't connect the dots between that and having meat on my plate. How do you address that with your clients because do you work only with people who are plant-based, or do you work with people who are kind of standing at the fork in the road and they want to make the changes, but they're not quite there yet?
Yeah, this is a constant consideration for me online. Obviously, the journal, the podcast, all of the work that I do online is geared towards the person who's plant-based curious or an existing vegan who just needs a healthier
Hmm.
approach to the lifestyle. However, face-to-face, one-on-one, I just moved from Sydney, where I'd lived for 25 years, to Noosa, which is a much smaller town. In Sydney, I had had many of my clients for 18 years, the whole time that I'd been a personal trainer. They stayed with me the whole time from when I was that passionate little vegetarian personal trainer for the first decade. And then when I became this mad, crazy vegan animal rights activist personal trainer, said with love for myself and all the other activists out there. And so my clients had been with me a really long period of time by the time I became vegan. Most of them had anyway. And so it would have been quite a tough pill for them to swallow, for me to all of a sudden start advocating only animal free in their own meal plans. They really weren't open to it. I had quite a few difficult, awkward conversations that really didn't go the way I wanted to. And I learned a lot about choosing my language and choosing my timing and not trying to make a vegan in a conversation, and rather instead looking to plant those compassionate seeds. And so bit by bit, my long-term clients, they made huge adjustments to their lifestyle, to the way that they eat, and saw big benefits. However, none of them, to be honest, none of them went completely 100% plant-based
Right.
or vegan. And then now, I'm starting from scratch in a new town, in a new gym. It's much smaller. No one knows me. I don't have that, like, all that rapport in the bank and those years of trust and respect with clients. I'm starting from scratch. And when I mentioned the veganism, it doesn't go down quite so well as I would hope that it might. So this is something new that I'm learning, and I guess just experimenting with right now, how blatant I am with my clients in mentioning the lifestyle, and
Right.
specifically in mentioning it in relation to their approach.
And that's so interesting because I think sometimes we become kind of jaded around the fact that, it is who we are. I recently wrote a blog post about the non-negotiables in life, and there's three main non-negotiables. There's more than that, but the first one is my sobriety. It's like, that is non-negotiable. I don't take a drink. I don't do drugs, period, end of story. And I've had people say, oh, one drink wouldn't hurt. It's like, oh yeah, one drink would hurt, because it's like maybe not right then and there, but very shortly thereafter, I would end up worse than I was before. Another non-negotiable is veganism. I
Mhm.
don't eat any animal-based products. And it's interesting because I'm in a relationship that is a kind of a mixed relationship of I'm vegan and my wife is not. And but what's happened is, because I do most of the cooking, more and more there is less and less meat in the house, and I won't buy it. I don't cook it. I don't buy it. That's just kind of the rule. And then the third non-negotiable is my relationship. 35 years with the same person, there are certain things that you do and you don't do to make those relationships work. So with you, when you're working with clients, and somebody is really wanting to explore more of a plant-based. Let's put veganism to the side and let's
Mhm.
talk plant-based for health. And they really want to do this, but then they're getting the yam from people around them, from maybe their doctor, from their parents, whoever it may be. How do you address that with people who, they could reverse their type 2 diabetes? They could minimize their risk of heart attacks. High blood pressure could go down, and yet they're dealing with people who are not supporting them. How do you deal with that, and how do you help them to work through that?
Absolutely. And I think you're hinting at it because you said plant-based. These people are probably curious about adopting the lifestyle for their health. So absolutely. I've got all the exercising and eating actions, and most people want to jump straight to those actions. However, they'd be doing themselves a disservice long term, as would I, if we went straight there. We need to lay the foundation that sets them up for long-term sustainable results. I
Mm-hmm.
want them to adopt this lifestyle and live it and love it long term. I want that for them. And so there's a bit of background work we need to do to set us up for that success. And I usually start with getting super clear on their why they are looking to achieve this, and building that why, that goal, with huge emotional intensity. What is the way that their life looks right now? How will it look if they don't make any changes? What is the way that it could look? How will that impact their life? How will that impact the life of everyone that they love? We really need to dig deep into this. There's no room for wishy-washy with your goal, because you'll get wishy-washy with your results. And I don't want that for them. Even more importantly, once they've got absolute clarity on what they're looking to achieve, we need to align it with their most important values and beliefs. So values are those states that you seek out before everything else.
Hmm.
There's no wrong or right. However, look at how you spend your time, your money, your energy. For me, my top two are freedom and integrity. For a client, maybe it's love, connection, family, whatever it is. We need to draw an alignment between those values and also their beliefs and the actions they need to take that goal. Because once we draw that alignment, everything is congruent, and the decision-making process is basically eliminated. I don't wake up, and you probably don't either, Kathleen. I don't wake up and think, do I need to exercise today or not? I know
Right.
what I need to do.
It's
I
like,
know
get out of
today's an
bed. Yeah.
I don't waste energy on it, right? And it's the same with both of us with the way that we eat. We don't think, oh, do I feel like that steak today? Or like, it's just not even something we waste
Right.
energy
Right.
on. Because for me, it's an alignment with integrity. I've recognized that I don't want animals to suffer unnecessarily for my food choices. It's just a non-negotiable, as you said. So that is the first step of many. I've got a 6-step process, but the first two are most important. It's defining the goal, the values, the beliefs, and it's aligning the goal, the values, the beliefs to make the process simple, sustainable for life.
Right. Well, I love what you said about the why, because if we don't identify the why, then goals really are going to fall by the wayside. And I want to remind people that you're listening to the Plant-Based Eating for Health podcast show. I'm your host, Kathleen Gage, and I'm here with Kate Galli, who is the creator. I really have to say creator of this beautiful, beautiful journal. It's called Plant Positive. And Kate, what inspired you to create this incredible journal? And why would somebody benefit from getting it?
Thank you, Kathleen. So, quite a few years ago, my dear mum gave me a gratitude diary for Christmas. And it was this stunning, like, daily planner with beautiful artwork. And every single month, the creator, Melanie Spears from Giving Thanks, spoke about the sun and the moon and the stars. And I didn't read any of that, but I planned my day to come the night before and I scribbled all over the thing. And it's basically the only reason that I get so many different things done every single day and stay focused. I did think, though, this diary is missing something. What if it had a plant-based or vegan focus? And what about if all of those writings were aligned with adopting a healthy vegan lifestyle? And it could be my little vegan Trojan horse, where it was this stunningly beautiful product filled with artwork and recipes and motivation and self-care. However, also, if you chose to read all of those writings, I would be sharing, I guess, all the mindsets as well as eating and exercising strategies that I've learned over almost 2 decades as a personal trainer and nearly 9 years as a vegan to adopt this healthy plant-based lifestyle. So that is how the journal came to be, and version 2 is due out basically as we speak with all new art and all new recipes. It's there to help the person who is plant-based curious. Maybe they're curious for their health, for the environment, for the animals. Perhaps they've tried it before or they've thought about it for a while. However, the lifestyle hasn't stuck yet. They've got some fear, they've got some overwhelm, maybe their family isn't completely
Right.
supportive, completely relate to that. So they want all the strategies. They want to learn how to design their own plant strong standards and build a community and eliminate limiting beliefs. All of those steps, the journal walks you through with much abundant deliciousness, and also 52 weeks of planning your day to come, the weekly planner, which I scribble all over every single day still, years on.
I'll tell you, it's such a beautiful journal. It's like at first it's painful to write into in it, and then it becomes part of who you are. Now, how can people reach you, Kate? What's the best URL for them to visit?
Very best main website, it is strongbodygreenplanet.com. That's where you find the journal, that's where you find the healthification website, and also where you connect with me across the socials.
Wonderful. So it's strongbodygreenplanet.com.
.com, perfect.
Okay,
Yeah.
excellent, excellent. And we'll put that in the show notes to make sure that people do go and visit your site. And I encourage people, check out the journal. If you're in the US, I believe it's available on Amazon. Am I correct? It's
No,
not.
not yet,
Okay.
Amazon.
Okay.
So I post all over the world, and the vast majority have gone to the US just because that is such a huge market.
Mhm.
Version 2 is coming in a tiny little bit smaller. It's still a beautiful beast at 468 pages. However, postage won't be quite so much. There's a fillable, editable PDF version as well
Wonderful.
for those who don't want to pay any postage at all
Okay.
and
Yeah,
wants
because
it
the postage can be
immediately.
pretty exorbitant.
A
Now,
hundred percent.
in Australia, you're in Australia, correct? Okay. In
Yes.
Australia, um, I know in the US we have a lot of big pharmas that advertise. Is that something that happens in Australia? Because I know there's one other country in the world like
New
the US.
Zealand is the other. New
Okay.
Zealand is the
Okay.
other,
Okay.
unfortunately. I can't believe it.
Okay, yeah, and it's shocking because there's times that I'll sit there and I will just start counting how many drug commercials there are, and it's no wonder that people are so unhealthy, and it's no wonder that they buy into the fact that the only way out of a problem with your health is to actually get a prescription drug instead of eating. And so when you're dealing with clients and somebody says, well, my doctor said I should take this medication, how do you address that? Because I know that it's a real fine line to walk of, well, the medication, you wouldn't need it if you ate healthy in many cases. So how do you address that with people?
Look, it absolutely depends where they are at in their journey and
Hmm.
also at what point they have come to me. If they have come to me as a vegan health coach, fresh for their health, I'm going to be pretty upfront about that and let them know that there are huge lifestyle modifications that you can make. Obviously, you wouldn't go off any drugs without consulting with your
Right.
doctor. I'm not a medical professional. I'm not here to dish out that advice. However, I will give them the hope and I guess open that little door of hope into the fact that drugs are not something that you necessarily need to be on for the rest of your life. We've got a sick care system, not a health care system.
Right.
And I will say that that is the primary reason that my dear mum, quite a few years ago now, was initially open to adopting a plant-based lifestyle. I'd been emotionally blackmailing her and my father to try and get them to watch What the Health for a few years until after I cooked a beautiful vegan Christmas feast one year, after enjoying all that food and seeing the effort I went to, Mum said, Katie, will you watch What the Health with me? I'm like, amazing, for sure, let's do this. Mum had been a nurse for 30 years. She really connected with the information shared in that documentary and the fact that our approach to health wasn't preventative and it wasn't about lifestyle. It was about big pharma and keeping people on drugs for the rest of their life. She absolutely resonated with that. And that was when she said, hey, Katie, I'm going to try this plant-based thing for a couple of weeks. And that was that,
Right.
Mum was
Right.
plant-based. So
Well,
with the new
here's a
client,
question to do with your
yeah.
mom's profession. Why do you think it is that healthcare professionals, doctors, nurses, physicians, assistants, whomever they may be, why is it that in traditional medicine, at least in the US, they're not taught a lot about nutrition?
Yeah. I'm hoping that's changing. It's the same in Australia here as
Mm,
well. I guess they have so much to cover. There's only so much you can cover. However, I would argue if lifestyle is the most impactful thing that you can do for your health, and if lifestyle factors can, be 80 to 90% of what can prevent and cure some of our biggest killers like heart disease and type 2 diabetes, then I would argue that there should be so much more time made for sharing that information with them. I think right now it's on them to seek out the information in their own time, and they
right.
don't have that much of it. However, there are more and more professionals who have potentially learnt the hard way. They've had their own negative health consequences. They've had to seek out the power of a whole food, plant-based lifestyle, and now they are dead set on spreading that word. These are the individuals that I'm grateful for that give me hope.
Absolutely. And it's amazing because I produce a few podcast shows, and one, we have some of the top plant-based docs in the world, Dr. Esselstyn, Dr. Campbell, you name the doctor. That doctor has probably been on the show. And it's amazing how many of them until they really did their own research, they had no clue what the truth was. And their whole mission is to educate other medical professionals to raise the awareness so that we can have those changes. With children, do you ever work with families and they have children who need to get their health in order? And if so, what is the strategy you use with children?
I don't have huge experience here because a lot of my clients were a little bit older than when they started with me, and they just continued with me, right? So their children were almost grown. I will say what breaks my heart is seeing that initial early days indoctrination of when a child who is naturally curious and compassionate and doesn't want to hurt animals, when they ask about where this food comes from and when they're lied to, that
Mm.
absolutely breaks the pig didn't feel anything, darling. Absolute rubbish lies like that,
Oh,
that bit by bit break down their compassion. I struggle. I think probably it's a little bit of an emotional block for me because I don't have kids. And so I'm fearful that the parent might say, hey, it's not your place. My best approach would be that to refer them to other professionals who have thriving vegan children. That is
right.
probably my preferred approach just for credibility since I haven't walked in their shoes. And there are so many of those professionals that you can refer to.
Absolutely. Well, I don't know if you know David and Lisa, who are they founded the Vegan Tribe, and they're not medical professionals. They're actually marketers, and they have a little baby who is, oh, she's probably, I'm going to say, a year old. Healthy, 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 the brightest red hair, just a beautiful child. And this child is being raised vegan. And I've talked to other parents who have raised their children as vegan because they are vegan themselves. And so, it's so interesting because there's something to be said for starting your child on that path to healthy eating. Now, I want to switch gears here a little bit and talk about your business. First of all, how do you normally onboard a new client? If somebody comes to you and they say, okay, maybe it's virtually, maybe it's in person, what's the whole process you take people through to assure that they're going to have the best experience possible, that they're willing to have their covers pulled on some of the mythology they live with about food? And so what's the whole process?
Onboarding one-on-one clients is basically done with personal training. That's a
Mhm.
face-to-face. That's the initial consultation. And that is where also we get super clear, as we covered, on their why and add that emotional intensity behind the why, what they're looking to achieve. I will talk values and beliefs in an initial consultation with a personal training client as well. I want to get really clear what they're looking to achieve. And I want to have some fuel to use with support when inevitably down the track they might lose a little bit of motivation, or it might get a little bit struggle street. I've seen it for nearly 2 decades, right? Someone rocks in at their most motivated, full of energy to make this goal happen, I want to have the fuel to refer them back to when they have a little bit less motivation. I ask them whether they've worked with a trainer in the past, what they loved, what they didn't like so much. I want to have, again, a little bit of fuel to know what sort of an approach they desire. A lot of it comes with time, though. I guess I'm grateful to have worked with my clients for such a long period of time. You get to know pretty fast who is the busy professional that just wants the most time effective, positive, safe, get in, get out, have some good conversation type of approach to training, and who is the person who needs a lot more emotional support. And
Right.
yeah, you're going to drag them through their exercise. However, absolutely, perhaps what's most special about the training session to them is the fact that I'm someone who my full focus and energy is on just them for that point in time.
Hmm.
And that's pretty special for people, sadly, nowadays to just have someone's absolute 100% focus for a set period of time. Most of us aren't that used to it.
Right, right, right. So here's I'm going to throw a little wrench in the whole thing of plant-based eating, veganism, and all this, and because I've been guilty of this. Okay, I've been vegan well, I started plant-based September of 2018, so 6 years. For the about a year, it was like really clear plant-based, whole food, no SOS, very, very strict in the way that I ate, but I was eating great, dropped a boatload of weight. And then I started identifying as vegan. I crossed that invisible line where I said, okay, now it really is about the animals. And what I found myself doing, and this is my addictive personality, and I'm sure that a lot of people that have food addictions have other types of addictions. And what I found myself doing was saying, well, I'm vegan, so I can have those vegan corn dogs, or I can have that vegan cake, or I can have the vegan this, the vegan that. And what I was doing is I was little by little giving up on the plant-based. I was still saying I was eating plant-based, but truth be told, I was eating as a junk food vegan junkie kind of thing. Um, how do you address that with people when, okay, I know what the healthy way to eat is. I know, and I'm back on track and everything, and I can tell, oh my gosh, my moods, my energy, everything, huge difference. So how do you address that with people when people say, well, I am vegan, so I should be healthy, and yet they're eating garbage food? What's the way that you work with clients that do that? Or do you have any clients who have done that?
We've got to be honest with ourselves, right? Vegan does definitely not mean healthy by default. I'm
Right.
grateful for all the amazing junk food out there. However, that is just very much occasional food. Again, it comes back to the alignment of your goal with your values and beliefs. For me, I'm never going to go crazy on the junk food because as a personal trainer and health coach, I need to look the part to have integrity. If someone is in it for the animals, if that is really the reason that they are in it, I would suggest to them, hey, how about like being the most fit, strong, healthy version of yourself? That's a pretty amazing way to advocate for the lifestyle and to advocate for the animals. Whatever is most important to them. Maybe it's their family and, practice what you preach. If you want your kids to grow up healthy and strong, they don't need to be eating those
Right.
processed vegan foods all of the time. So I don't think this one's that hard. I think we need to be honest with ourselves, you
Darn.
know? Like, I
Doggone
mean,
it.
I'm not full of discipline, right? But even though all of my clients will tell me you're the most disciplined person I've met, here's the secret. I've admitted my lack of discipline and I've outplanned my lack of discipline in advance. So I don't have that crappy food in the house. If I'm going to indulge in some of it, I buy one portion. That's it, because lethal leftovers will get eaten. So it's a series of strategies that I've adopted and that I suggest to my clients or let them, remember what's worked in the past so far as their discipline. What hasn't worked in the past? Where have they failed, inverted commas, multiple times in the past? And let's not set yourself up for that again.
Right, right. I love it. So, there's really no excuse. It's like we know what to do. It's just either do it or don't. And really what it boils down to, Katie, is quality of life. I mean, that's really what it is, because again, as I've moved into my 70s and I look at people my age and I just even younger than me, and I just think, wow, I don't want to live like that. And it's not a judgment on other people because a lot of them are truly victims of the system, whether it be the healthcare system, the big pharma, whether it be the food system. And this might sound conspiracy theory, but they're all in bed together and it's profits over people. So with that, where do you see, and before we go into the next question, I do again want to remind people you're listening to the Plant-Based Eating for Health podcast show. I'm your host, Kathleen Gage, and I'm here with Kate Galli, who is the creator of this beautiful, beautiful journal, Plant Positive. I encourage you to check it out. And in version 2, you will be able to get the PDF version. So check out her website. Definitely encourage you to see what this amazing woman is up to. So with this, where do you see the whole plant-based movement, vegan movement going, and where does it need to go to?
I'm so hopeful because I couldn't continue if I wasn't hopeful. You know, I am still living in hope that there will be a vegan world within my lifetime. However, I would love it if the default was that we didn't even speak about it. The odd ones out were the people that still insisted on eating animals. The vast majority of people recognize that animals are here with us, not for us. That is my hope. And, you know, that is what my every single day is committed to. I think, and this has been a really hard learnt lesson for me, as urgent and dire and catastrophic as the situation is, whether we're talking about human health, animals suffering, the environment being destroyed, it's also heavy and urgent. I've learnt that truth bombs and judgment just don't work.
Mm-hmm.
The hard learning for me was that they would have worked for me. When I was that passionate little vegetarian at 16, I even think as the 7-year-old who loved animals, if I'd heard the truth bombs, I would have changed.
Mm-hmm.
I'm the minority, so my hard learnt lesson is to appeal to the non-vegan majority and to lead with love and compassion and deliciousness. And that's what the journal is looking to do. And that's what I school myself to do in every single conversation as well. You know, my first gut reaction often is to pounce on someone when they say something completely incongruent. You know, I was out for lunch with work colleagues on Friday, and my boss, my new boss, I'm a contractor, but my new boss had just told me, you know, how opposite we are in the way that we eat. I'm vegan, he eats basically meat. We'd just finished that conversation. I hadn't really planted any seeds. And then he went to go on about, I love animals so much. If an animal's suffering in a movie, can't watch it. He even said, I'd kill a human, could never kill an animal. Little bit shocked at that. And again, I didn't pounce on it. And I thought about it afterwards. It just wasn't the place because
Right.
you know those conversations, Kathleen, that are just going to turn into an argument and they're just going to erode the quality of relationship that you have. I'm tending more to go for the low-hanging fruit, to be there to 100% champion and support the person who's curious. They're already aware of
Right.
the many, many whys as to why we should adopt a more plant-based or exclusively vegan lifestyle. I am there to support them. I'm sick of wasting my energy on the individuals that they're just up for a debate. It means too much for me. I'm not
Right.
putting my energy there. I will say I am so grateful for the activists that are still putting their energy there because I do think we still need that. However, that's just not me and it's not my
Right,
approach.
right. And you never know what seeds you plant in conversations and when it might take hold. And I actually have a friend, Linda Middlesworth. She's 80 years old. She's an activist, without a doubt. She's the co-founder of V-Dog Dog Food. And she put a clip up the other day where she went to the state capitol in California and she's like yelling, you know, stop the factory farming. And that's Linda. And that's, you know, as
Mm,
she gets older, she has fewer and fewer concerns about doing that. And it's really important for her to do that. And so God bless her in that. God bless you in what you're doing. God bless all of us for doing what we can do in our own way. And in closing, what are your final thoughts for people? What would you like to leave people with?
My go-to is always to back yourself 100%. This was another hard learnt lesson for me that I learnt in the business from hell, which was a business where very much I wasn't experiencing my number one value of freedom, and that was hard. I learnt that although you can't have certainty in circumstances, and you certainly can't control other people, you don't know what's coming today, tomorrow, next year. You can build that certainty of self so that you know that you will step up for you. And to all of our listeners, if you're not yet, I hope you're channeling or at least starting to channel that certainty of self towards your ideal health. Because even if you're not there yet, you can get there. Absolutely. Small steps, one small step at a time. That's my parting advice.
I love it. I love it. Well, Katie, thank you so much for all you're doing. And to the people that are watching and listening, I encourage you again, go visit Katie's website. And if you could give that one more time.
StrongBodyGreenPlanet.com.
Excellent, excellent. And if you're thinking that maybe plant-based eating might be the way to go, give it 30 days, give it even 7 days. I noticed a difference when I made the decision. In 2 days, I noticed a change because I did it because of inflammation. I had severe inflammation in my wrists and in my legs, and I was a runner at the time. And within 2 days, marked difference. Within 7 days, I started dropping weight within 2 weeks. And then, 2 weeks turned into 4 weeks. So I encourage you, just try it for a little while and give it 100%, because if you really want a quality of life, you have to give life 100%. This is Kathleen Gage with the Plant-Based Eating for Health podcast show. Thank you for listening. And please leave a rating and review and subscribe to this channel wherever you might be listening or watching. Have a great day. You've been listening to the Plant-Based Eating for Health podcast show. I'm your host, Kathleen Gage, inviting you to subscribe to this channel wherever you're listening or watching the show. And please let your friends know about the Plant-Based Eating for Health podcast show. Live healthy.